something of an ordinary person? I mean, obviously you're fairly extraordinary.
I've always felt of myself as a typical ordinary guy, yeah.
All right. And you handle it. So
Not
why?
easily.
Not easily, really.
No.
Can you tell me what it was like
Let me tell you that
when you first
I've been at
found
this
out?
for over 40 years.
Right.
And I first began to get some information of what was involved here. That to me was like a drug addict. You know, I've never taken drugs. Well, I smoke a little and I drink coffee and I have a little bourbon now and then. But aside, I've never taken hard drugs.
Right.
But it was almost like an addict. Once I learned officially from government documents what was taking place, what was happening, my God, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't learn enough. I was voracious to get more and more and more and more. And I became a nuisance to my friends. It's a wonder that I was able to retire honorably without ending up in Fort Leavenworth, which is a disciplinary barracks, by the way. It's a prison, military prison. It's amazing that I've gotten to this point in my life without going to jail.
Okay, well, you were highly respected at the time when you discovered this information. Would you say that in your career as a military?
I had been given a cosmic top secret clearance, which
Right.
was and still is the highest security classification that NATO has.
Okay, but cosmic top secret, did that mean to you that you were going to be let in on the secrets of our, you know, extraterrestrial relations with other planets?
No, it simply meant that I was given access to a military document, a study that NATO conducted from 1961 to 1964. When I got to shape in Paris in 1963, I learned of a study that was underway. I had had a top secret clearance when I arrived, which you had to have to get to that particular assignment, where they had landed and contacted people, indicated that they were humanoid, all of the 4 different groups. Out of the 4 different groups, all humanoid, one group was so human looking that just like us. They could sit next to us in a restaurant, they could sit next to you in a theater, and you would never know. That was the ones that bothered the admirals and the generals the most. That these guys could be walking up and down the corridors of SHAPE headquarters, or the Pentagon, or the White House.
Were they?
I have always suspected that, yes, they have been.
Okay, have you met any?
I've met a couple who I am convinced were from somewhere else, yes. These guys had been coming and going for a long time. The History Annex took it back a couple of thousand years. The records, the photographs, the drawings, the paintings, it was unbelievable material. This was all just wild for me, you see.
Okay, but this is after World War II.
Yes.
This is after Germany had, we paperclip and...
Germany was divided.
Okay. And you were on West...
We were Western Europe.
Sure. Okay.
The Warsaw Pact was Eastern Europe.
So are you saying that the technology that was used by Hitler and his group, some of which was brought back to the United States, was not known to the West, to the people in NATO that were doing this report?
Of course not. It was highly classified. When the old man read that story, or with that report, the assessment, he says it hit him like a truck, hit him like a ton of bricks. He told me that the general threw his hat across the desk and he says, "Do you know what the hell this means? Everything we've got, everything we've done, everything we've had doesn't mean a damn thing." The shock was pretty serious. Here you have a highly decorated World War II Air Force general who'd been all over the place. I think he flew B-29s. Pacific. He said, "Well, if this is all true, if this is real, what we've got, our military, our Air Force, our bombs, our planes, doesn't mean a thing. The conclusions of the study, after 3 years, concluded that they had been coming here for a very long time, that they apparently had some involvement in the origins of our species. Big shock to traditional people, particularly Christians and Muslims people. It was interesting is that apparently there was not a threat involved. If they were hostile or aggressive, they would have been over a long time ago. Now, what was their purpose? Well, the study was not able to conclude that. It said that the military committee will continue this research, which indicated to me that the study in some form had continued, that this document in '64 was simply an initial conclusion.
Okay.
Called experts that are running this program and keeping this the greatest story in human history from people. The people have a right to know. And let me tell you why I say that. I shared this with Bill. I have always believed that if this were to come out totally, as big as it is, as dynamite as it is, that it would bring about an expansion of consciousness in people. But the story is so big, honey. Let me tell you something else. Over the years I've learned. What I learned in 1967 was nothing compared to what I've learned since. Over the years, digging in, talking to people in high positions, people who would, sit at a conference and say, hey, let's sit down and talk. Just let me tell you what I just learned. I've almost come to the conclusion that the story is so damn big that the government may be right. That the mass of people can't deal with it. How do you tell people that this species, this race that we are all a part of, is a hybrid race? That we were genetically created by an extraterrestrial intelligence? How do you tell them that? Carefully. You look around and you tell them carefully, depending on where you are. Now, if you're in Baghdad talking to some Sunnis or Shia, you don't even bring the damn subject up. How do you tell them that every major religion on the planet has been initiated and orchestrated by extraterrestrial intelligence? How do you tell Christian fundamentalists that that lovely man from Galilee 2,000 years ago was a part of that program? You don't tell them that unless you've checked the exits and know how the hell you can run and get out of the house.
But how do you not tell them when they're in the millions, When there's so many of them out there right now that are just as aware as you are, and as I am, and Bill, and Marcia. I mean, we are not in the minority as much as we think we are. And that's the interesting problem, is that the government and what they planned to do all those years back when they were running the country, which they're not anymore, wasn't the best decision they made back then. And now it's the worst thing to keep the secret going. And you obviously believe that it's still important to wake people up.
I still believe that there are great masses
today
of people out there who can deal with it. You didn't fall to the floor sobbing when I just told you that this is a fact. This is not just my idea.
Sure.
These are facts that I have verification for.
Okay.
You see, I know that I've talked to people on the inside. I've had people come and share with me who are on the inside.
I bet.
And say, let me tell you. I've had military officers share with me. I had men working for me, he said, outside of Las Vegas, that when they were confronted with this, I had grown men with combat experience who broke down and cried like babies. You're in a world that isn't at all what you think it is.
Exactly.
As I have said to you many times, you are living at the moment inside of, part of, one of the galaxy's finest, ripest zoological gardens. And if you think I've just told you you live in a zoo, You do live in a zoo. Now, I don't know how this deals with your sense of ego and your self-respect and who you think of yourself you are, but you're an animal living in a zoo. Now, how does a mass of people confronted with this reality going to deal with this? You're unusually enlightened and bright on this subject because I think you have informed yourself.
Of course.
You purposely tried to learn what it was all about.
That's right.
So you've taken little bits and pieces of this and absorbed them and digested them and chewed them and masticated them, and you little bits and pieces at a time. Mm-hmm. So you got a pretty good smart there about what's really happening. And you're still walking around like a normal human being.
Sure.
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is we are immersed in a universe that is conscious, teeming with conscious intelligence. And there are planets out there like grains of sand, filled with intelligent life. Mm-hmm. And there are cultures, civilizations, societies that are 1,000,000 years ahead of us. The government knew all of that and more years and years before. They just were not sharing it with anybody.
Right.
We were confronting and dealing with intelligences from other planets, other star systems, other galaxies, and some of the contacts we've had have been intelligence from other dimensions. Time as we understand it, and this dimensional thing of time and space, is so primitive and so fundamental. You know, time is infinite, space is infinite, and time and space is connected so deeply involved together that time travel is just accepted. It's a given. Now, this primitive little society here still likes to play with the idea, you know, make movies and all that and tell stories and wonder. And to me, the fact that some of these dimensional people, that in itself is a form of time travel. Mm-hmm. When you come here from another dimension that is so totally different in so many respects from what we have here, you're literally coming from another time. Now, whether it's our time at another time and place, you see, we are so limited in our concept physically, in terms of physics and all, that we really can't even discuss it.